Hey, I'm Felissa Rose, and you're watching Keto and Krime.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Keto and Krime. Today I have that Q&A video I've been promising you. I don't really like to talk about myself, so this is probably going to be harder than any true crime, history, or pop culture case that I cover. But I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go down the line and read the comments and questions as they come in, so it might be a little out of order, but I'm going to do my best to answer them. So, I'm going to read the person that asked the question, their first name, and then go into the question and do my best to give you an answer. Now, I do want to give a huge shout out to my patrons and my channel members. If you would like to join them, those links are down below. Otherwise, just watching, liking, subscribing, sharing is the best thing you can do for the channel. And with that being said, let's get into the questions. Felicia would like to know, please feel free to tell me what you can about your gay conversion therapy experience, because I kind of thought that churches did less of that with girls. It's only because they couldn't get their heads around the actual mechanics of two women having sex. Okay, this is a heavy one to start with. But okay, I'll address that. In my church, the Pentecostal church I was brought up in, Church of God, homosexuality was equally looked down upon, whether it was man or woman. Now, in society, I think it's more well accepted for women to be, bisexual, gay, than it is for men in general. I think that's just because of how society norms are drawn up, masculine versus feminine features, because women are taught to nurture. That's just kind of my thing, and it's not... A woman, two girls can hold hands in public school, take sexuality out of it, and no one's going to look at it. But if two boys hold hands, I think that goes a lot to say about gender roles and how we view things. But that aside, I'm not getting into some philosophical lecture. Let me tell you about my experience. Now, I was not sent by my church. I was sent by my mother. Now, if you've ever heard any of my stand-up, you hear me talk about my parents that reacted fine to me coming out as gay. Those are not my natural parents. Those are the parents of a good friend of mine that I met as a teen, that kind of rescued me from the single mom that I was growing up with, who was very anti-gay, very much a religious zealot. She was raised Pentecostal, was Southern Baptist for a while, then Pentecostal again, then Southern Baptist again. So you can imagine the opinion she had of gay people. But... So, this is kind of going to answer a couple of different questions. Let me go to, I think I was 11, and I was having, I had a crush on my kindergarten teacher. Now, that was maybe 5, 6 years old, and she was female. So, and then I, again, had a crush on my 4th grade teacher. So, I knew that I was attracted to females. But again, I also had crushes on, the Kirk Camerons, the Bobby Ewings, the J.R. Ewing, everybody that you saw on TV. I also kind of had crushes on them, so I think maybe at my heart I might be bisexual, but I do prefer women to men. And at the age of 11, I finally mustered up the courage to go and talk to my mom about it, because I thought, she's my mom, she's going to understand. Well, she basically just dismissed it, wouldn't talk about it, it's just a phase, oh, don't worry about it. So, kind of went unmentioned for a while. And then, when I was 13, she came in with this packet of Bible lessons, and wanted me to complete it to get a scholarship to go to summer camp. And I'm like, okay, cool, summer camp. So, I did these lessons, and I noticed that a lot of them were talking about all the biblical passages you see about same-sex attraction, same-sex, those sorts of things, and I thought that was a little weird, but I just kept going, and I ended up completing all these Bible lessons over the course of about 6 weeks, and got a half scholarship to attend a Bible camp in Mentone, Alabama. Now, unbeknownst to me, my mom had spoken to them before I got there. Now, this was, I don't know what denomination this camp, and I'm not going to mention the camp, I'm pretty sure it's out of business anyway, but I'm not going to mention the denomination that it was affiliated with, nor am I going to mention the name. So we'll just say it was a Christian-based Bible camp for preteens and teens. And basically, she had already talked to them about my same-sex attraction, or my perceived same-sex attraction. So when I got there, I mean, I was in the cabin with the girls, but I felt I was being watched. Now, I did not have the same conversion therapy that the people that come in the middle of the night and kidnap you and take you to, like, Costa Rica, that's not what I had. Knowing what I know about my mother now, I don't think that was out of the realm of possibility with her, but she's not a nice person, but I don't think she could have afforded that. But, so she did kind of conversion camp light. So I kind of hesitate to say true conversion therapy, but I was put through the ringer. So I noticed I was watched a lot. I was never allowed to be alone with another girl unless there was, more there. It had to be in a group situation. I always felt that my cabin leader was always there up in my business trying to see what I was doing. If I was, like, reading a comic book or something, she was coming over my shoulder to see what I was reading. And then, my lessons, our Bible lessons that we would have, all tended to revolve around same-sex attraction. I doubt that was just because of me, but, this is something that this denomination believed was wrong, so of course they taught children about it. And then the one-on-ones that I would have, I noticed most of the campers only had maybe one one-on-one a week. I was going every day to meet with a different member of senior staff, whether it was a counselor or the director or the director's wife, and they would sit there and talk to me about boys, asking me, did I have a boyfriend? No, I was a tomboy. I didn't have a boyfriend. I didn't, I was more into Transformers and G.I. Joe and comic books, really. But I would tell them, no, not really. And then they started asking me, well, what do you think of your teachers? Your mom says you were close to your 4th grade teacher. They gave her name. And I said, yeah, I was. She was really nice to me. I liked her a lot. And then they said, your mom tells us you like figure skating and that you really like watching the women skate. So there was a lot of trying to pull stuff out of me to incriminate myself. And I ended up staying at the camp 2 weeks. Normally it's a 1-week thing, but I ended up staying there 2 weeks, and as time went on, it got more and more in-depth what they were asking from me, and finally the director just came right out and said, well, your mom has told us that you might be having crushes on girls, and we just want to let you know because we love you. I was 13. That, God didn't make us that way. God created man and woman for a specific purpose, and if you're not giving that sort of love and attention to a boy, you're not fulfilling God's purpose, and it makes God angry, and that's a sin, Tracy, and you could go to hell for it. I mean, he just came right out and told me. So after that, it was maybe 5 days in. For the rest of the 2 weeks, it was literally telling me I'm going to hell if I don't get rid of these feelings. They would pray with me.
There are some matters where we would be better servants of the Lord by accepting what is and not bothering Him. Come on! You can't pray the gay way. You can't pray the gay way.
Try to get me to say I was a sinner, and I did it. I mean, I said I was a sinner. God, please heal me of these feelings. I want to like boys. I mean, I was crying. They had me scared to the point that I wouldn't even eat. And I've always been a chubby puppy, so I wasn't eating. I was basically just so nervous and so scared. I thought I was going to hell. And so I wouldn't eat. I would just kind of sit. I stopped participating in any of the activities. And there was some fun stuff like canoeing and marshmallow, that sort of thing. I stopped participating in all that. I just sat by myself. If they would run me out of the cabin because they didn't want me in there by myself, but I would just sit. I wouldn't participate. I stopped going to Bible class, and then when my mother got there, they told her I was being a problem camper and that I was being kind of a Debbie Downer. I seemed depressed. Maybe she should get me some counseling. But anyway, I went home, but she sent me to that hellhole for the next 3 summers until I was 15, old enough to get a job and work. And she sent me there, and I went through that same kind of BS. And finally, every summer, literally, towards the last of it, I would break down and pray for forgiveness, and I'm cured. And they would leave me alone until I got sent there the next summer. And then come to find out, I was sent to military school, about just my junior year. And then I was there, and that's where I joined the Army. It was from the military school. But I was sent there because she wanted to straighten me out. She thought that sending me to a military school to get some discipline in me would cure my gayness as well. I found this out only recently when I talked to an aunt of mine who told me that I was sent away for a specific purpose, to cure me, to straighten me out. And so looking back on that, that's the reason and honey, that was the wrong move. Putting a potentially gay lady or man in the military, where you have lots of access to everything they don't want you to have access to, let me tell you. A lot of we're way past don't ask, don't tell, which is when I served, but I had a lot of experiences in the military. So, that was the wrong move. I guess it did straighten me out in a way because I realized who I was, even though I kind of kept it to myself for many years after that. But for the most part, I got sent away. And if it hadn't have been for my parents, the people I consider my parents, it would have been, my life would have been totally hell. They would come get me and keep me a week, 2 weeks at a time, and kind of get me out of that situation. But looking back, that was my gay conversion therapy. It definitely was not as severe as I've heard others go through, but it wasn't pleasant either. So, Felicia, I hope that answers your question. Jenny wants to know, how, where, when did you and your wife meet and decide to make it permanent, before or after the big vote? And by big vote, I assume, Jenny, you mean 2016. Well, ironically enough, we met February 2016 at a comedy show. I was performing. She was in the audience. I'll drop a picture of her here. She will never come on camera, but she will let me put a picture here, so I'll drop that here. And that's where we met. She came up, started talking to me. I was so much of a fool that I didn't even realize that she was flirting with me. But it wasn't an easy relationship for her. I was hung up on a woman that I had been back and forth with for several years that really treated me like crap. And so I was hung up on her, wasn't giving my current wife enough of a chance. And finally I got myself together, and I realized who really cared about me, and we did eventually move in together. We were typical U-Haul lesbians. We started dating officially like in March, and then we moved in June of 2016, but we did not get married until May of 2017. Out of fear that Donald Trump was going to suspend gay marriage, which turned out to be a big lie. But, kind of all that run of the mill. So I hope that answers your questions. And what does my wife do? My wife is she designs maps for Minecraft. She works for a company that puts Minecraft maps on the Microsoft Store, and she also works for our business, my admin business. She takes care of one of the clients that we have. We were able to take on an extra client, and so she takes care of them. So we have a family business, and then she does her maps on the side. Sarah would like to know, what was the first case that fascinated me, and if you could solve one case, which would it be? Oh my goodness. The first case that fascinated me was the case of Judith and Alvin Neely. I actually was one of my first true crime murder cases I ever did here on YouTube, and I'll link it above. Because it happened so close to where I was brought up. It happened in, the part of Georgia that kind of merges with Alabama, because I grew up in that area around the Appalachian Mountains of Alabama. So what happened there, it happened to a 13-year-old girl. She was tortured in the worst way possible and her body was left mutilated in a state park near where I grew up. So that was the first one, because it scared me. It literally scared me. If I could solve one case, I think we all know that would be the Daybell case. I would love, that has changed over the years, but I would really like to know exactly what happened, why, and, really get into their heads, more than I have. I mean, I've done a lot of research, but if I could solve that with 100% accuracy, that would be the one. After that would be Joan Benet Ramsey. Again, I would like to know exactly what happened and why, with 100% accuracy. Stanley would like to know about my upbringing, my education, and my family. As a fellow Southerner, listening to you is like listening to family. Thank you, Stanley. What part of the South are you from? Let me know in a comment down below. I truly enjoy your content. Thank you, Stanley. I really enjoy everyone that watches me, and every comment that I get is truly a joy. So I really want to say thank you to everyone. So as far as my upbringing, let's start with where I was born.
I was born a poor black child.
Actually, I was born a poor white child in a little, in Cherokee County, Alabama, Center, Alabama, a hospital that's no longer in existence. It was torn down a long time ago. I grew up in a small town called Collinsville near Fort Payne in DeKalb County, Alabama. Went to school at the public high school there, Collinsville School. It was kindergarten through 12th grade. There would have been, I think, 30 students in my graduating class, but I ended up being sent to military school. As I pretty much said, I ended up finishing my high school at Marion Military Institute in Marion, Alabama. And then from there, I was in the military for 2 years, where I was actually stationed back at Marion after basic cooking for officers candidates. So I had a pretty cush assignment in the military, except for the entire Air Force. Just kidding. Just kidding. Air Force people hate that joke. But, so, as far as college, I attended Judson College, a all-girls Southern Baptist college, which is now currently in the process of closing. COVID got it. I majored in psychology and English with minors in history and political science. Ended up getting a master's in political science. I was planning on going to law school, but that didn't pan out. I ended up working the majority of my adult life in restaurants, but virtue of my MOS having been food service in the military, I ended up working off that. I ended up going to a culinary school as well and getting a culinary certificate that I used to earn the majority of my living. I then ended up teaching culinary arts, and I've always been a bit techie, so I ended up working for a local community college, helping them migrate some of their classes from on ground to online, and then ended up getting into the tech space from there. And that's where I am today after a brief stint with a business partner of mine here in Nashville, where we developed an early delivery app for restaurants here in the Nashville area. We ran that for about 3 years until we ended up having to sell it because, when the big boys come in, sometimes you don't have the market share to keep your business open. So I ended up doing that, and now I work for myself for a couple of different clients. And so that's my upbringing and education. My family, my parents divorced when I was 2. I have an older sister who's also gay, as a matter of fact, weirdly enough. I was raised pretty much by a single mom. Looking back now, I know there was a lot of shenanigans on her part toward my father, which was probably one reason he wasn't around so much. She wasn't a very nice person, and I ended up, I don't talk with her, let's just say that, but the majority of my family is pretty cool, especially my adopted family, and they take good care of me, and I'm very, very blessed in that, as blessed as a non-religious person can be. I'm very blessed in that in that regard. So thank you, Stanley. Amy would like to know, she first asked, how did I meet my wife? I already told that story earlier, but how did I get the idea to start a YouTube channel? I actually started it. I've been doing stand-up comedy on and off my entire life, as well as improv, so I finally delved headfirst into stand-up comedy, which I still do now that COVID is allowing everything to open back up. But I started it just as a repository for my comedy videos, and it kind of, back in 2016, and it kind of grew from that. From that to, I was doing commentary and reactions in a comedic way, to now I just dived headfirst into what I really like YouTube, as far as YouTube goes, true crime, history, social commentary, so that's what I do now. Sarah would like to know if I ever taken any personality tests like Briggs-Myers or the Enneagram, and what were my results. And thank you for loving my content, Sarah. Thank you so much. I have not taken either of those, which is weird for a psychology major, I know, but I did take a TASE assessment as part of a project for a client, and basically those results were basically that I had, my need for control was pretty high, but I was flexible. I can turn on a dime. I am definitely a extrovert, which I don't understand. I think I'm more introverted, but that said, I was an extrovert. And I am not as confident as I should be, so that's what that said about me. Am I a serial killer? Probably not. So, Abby wants to know about the curio cabinet that used to be behind me in my videos. That is my wife's grandmother's home. We called her Nana. She passed away not long ago. But those knickknacks in the thing are kind of collector's items that were accumulated through her world travels. She was an interior designer, and so she traveled a lot for work and just for fun. And she was in Italy, Japan, all over the United States. So a lot of those artifacts are from her travels. So there's a lot of neat stuff in there. As far as my wife is walking in here and making funny faces at me, so she knows I'm talking about family online. As far as that's what it is. And finally, Anne asks about our days being on the road in my RV. In our RV, we still travel in the RV. That's the plan. As soon as everything opens back up from COVID, we used to spend 6 months on the road every year, me doing shows. I worked from the road. We've been all over the U.S. in it. I think we've been to 30 of the 50 states in it. And we hope to get at least another 13. I don't foresee us going to Hawaii or Alaska in an RV, but we hope to get the other, very close to it as soon as COVID opens back up and I get back on the road for comedy, which, yes, I still do. Monique wanted to know about my majors and my minors, as well as my education. I think I answered that pretty well, but if there's anything else you guys would like to know, for sure, let me know. As far as my YouTube, yes, Monique, I still do stand-up. I got into stand-up comedy because, I don't know, I've always loved it. I basically play a character on stage. I mean, it's me, but it's not me. It's a persona I do on stage. I'm really not that prolific at public speaking, but I play a character. I guess you could say I play a stand-up comedian on stage, if that makes sense. I am close with my family, the people that I consider my family. I'm not so close with some of my blood family. What is my ultimate goal with comedy and YouTube? I would like to do them full time. I would love to be able to only do comedy and YouTube. That is my ultimate dream. Where do I see it taking me? As far as it can. Do I think I'll ever be an A-list celebrity? I mean, I guess I have that hope, but probably not. But could I earn a living with it? I think so, and that's what I'm working towards. How did my family react to me coming out? My biological mother, not so good. She sent me to conversion therapy. How did my adopted family react? They said they already knew, and they were actually okay with it. Basically, that was my mother's. I was going through a phase where I was vegan for a while. I was trying to find a perfect eating because I've always had a weight problem. I'm not very good at moderation. I'm good at extremes. I can diet or I can eat like total crap. So I always have to be on some kind of special eating plan not to gain 1 billion pounds. So I was vegan at the time, and I told them my adopted family reacted better to me being gay than vegan. I'll just put it that way. My favorite TV show of all time? Oh, Monique, that is such a loaded question. I love so many for so many reasons, but I'll list off some of my top ones. X-Files, Friends, Sex and the City, Breaking Bad, goodness, Big Love, Game of Thrones, so many for so many different reasons. Music, I'm a huge country music fan, but I like all kinds of music, particularly show tunes. My favorite band of all time is the country band Alabama, because I grew up 30 minutes from their hometown and actually got to know some of the members pretty in person. Even worked for one of them for a short time, so they're definitely my favorite band. My favorite season is definitely fall. I'm a typical white girl. I like my pumpkin spice. Holiday is Halloween. I love Halloween. Favorite part of the country. I like the South. I like the Southeast. It's where I'm from. I think the people are friendliest. Everybody just gets along here. I mean, in some of the urban areas, you're going to find some strife. But if you get out into the rural areas here in the South, Tennessee, Alabama, it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what your sexuality is. It doesn't matter what religion you are. As long as you treat people with respect, you're going to be treated with respect. And that's what I like about the South. Let's see. How did I come out? I just blurted it out. And it worked. Do I plan on having kids? We've talked about it. We think maybe adoption or fostering might be in our future because I don't see actually having a baby being in it. Anyway, I hope I answered everything you needed to know there, Monique. Indigo wants to know, could I tell about when I stopped believing in God? I actually did a video on that. I'll link it up here. But I'll kind of break it down for you. I have been through many iterations of religion. I was raised in a very strict Pentecostal environment, and then ended up going to a Southern Baptist school where one of my professors, ironically, was a Episcopal priest, and I talked to him about my sexuality, and he basically told me some things that made me feel better about the whole thing, and his church's view on homosexuality. And so I was Episcopal for many, many years, and then I kind of went from going to church to just being a believer, a theist, a believer in God, but had a personal relationship with God, but didn't go to church. And then from there, I became a spiritual person. And then after many years of just reading and research, I began to view the Bible as no more than a collection of mythology stories, just like the Norse and Greek and Roman mythology I used to love as a kid. There was a lot of parallels between those myths and the stuff in the Bible, as well as historical facts in other religions, like the same flood story being in like 3 to 4 different religions. And it realized that I was just following a Middle Eastern mythology, not really a true religion. So that's when I stopped believing in an actual God. Now, as an atheist, I don't believe that anybody knows for sure whether there's a God or not, so I say I don't see any evidence of one, and I don't. But if there is one, and they want to prove to me that they are there, that's on them. They need to do it. And so that's just kind of how I view that. I'm not anti-religion. I was for many, many years, but 'cause I think it's a form of control. But I'm not anti-religion anymore. I get along just fine with religious people as long as they don't force it on me, just like anything else in life. What would I say to a young woman like myself in those Pentecostal type churches? It gets better. It gets better. Once you're grown and out on your own, you can change the way you're viewed, change the way you view other things. Just hang on. When you move out of the house, you're going to be a lot better off. Reach out to friends, reach out to family that you can trust to get the help that you need, but hang on. It does get better. Hang on. And that's one reason I do so many cult videos, because if there are those people out there, I want to reach them. So you can reach out to me. There's the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which helps people just like that get out of oppressive religious situations. So there is help out there, and that's the reason I want to put the word out. And after that, I had Angela wanting to know if I could do the video on the dark side of wrestling, which I did for you, Angela. I hope you enjoyed it. And with that being said, that's it for this Q&A. I'll do another one again real soon. And I hope to see you all around for my next video. Until next time, Keto and Krime.